everybody, Sarah Bryson here with Spirited Equestrian LLC. Welcome to our first how-to. This is Callie, and today we're going to learn how to be grooming a horse. So I've got a few things here. I've got my horse, very important, myself, even more important. And then I have a grooming kit. Now this is mine, it's a little dingy, but that's okay. It doesn't have to be perfect, just whatever you can have. I'm going to go over the grooming tools that you're going to need. First, I'm gonna start by pulling my hair back because as you see, I've got really long hair and I don't want it to get in my way. As you can see, Callie's very dirty. So if I open my grooming kit, I'm going to use these gloves. If you look closely here, these gloves have little nubs on them. And what those nubs do is they help break up dirt. I call these my curry gloves because there's also something that we use called a curry comb. It's metal. As you can see, it has little teeth and it serves the same purpose that these gloves do. So if you're using a metal curry comb, first you're gonna move from head to tail while grooming your horse. And got some big mud chunks here with a curry comb with the metal curry. You see Callie really likes this. You're going to go with the same direction as the fur, and you're just going to scrape those big chunks of mud off. Now, I like using my curry gloves, and they're a little bit gentler. And whenever you use gloves, you're going to go in a circular motion, starting at her head, just breaking up those big chunks of mud. You might have to scrub a little bit harder on some areas, more than others. Once you get down to the legs, you want to be very gentle. I would not use a metal curry comb on the legs because it's very sensitive. They have very bony legs. Notice I'm getting the very top of her back all the way underneath her belly. You want to get all around the horse. Make sure they're really clean. She's got some tough spots right here, so I'm going to scrub a little harder. Remember, these gloves are a lot gentler than the metal curry. If you're using the metal curry, you want to be really gentle. Be aware of how the horse is responding to this. As you see, Callie really likes this. She's kind of leaning into me. She's not wiggling a lot. That tells me she really likes this. If she were to do something like flinch, that would tell me that she's not enjoying this, and that probably hurt. Some of you may notice that I am standing right behind the horse. This is safe because she knows I'm here and I'm very close to her. Where you don't want to be is you don't want to be super far back, because if she were to kick me, it's going to give her a lot of space to kick me. The closer I am, the safer I am. Now, I wouldn't want to walk right up behind a horse without them knowing I'm here. So if you don't know if the horse can see you or not, you don't want to just come running up behind a horse. But she knows I'm here because I'm obviously giving her a spa treatment. So I know that that's safe. Never go behind a horse that you do not know. All right, that's a good curry. Now I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. All right, now that we're done with the curry, that means we got all the big mud chunks off. Now I'm going to switch to my next tool. All of my tools are really dirty because they're well loved and well used. This is what we call a body brush. It has pretty stiff bristles. There are different types of body brushes. I like these that are a little bit more narrow so you can flick the dirt, and that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna do a flicking motion in the same direction that her fur lays. To flick all that dirt we just broke loose with the curry comb and flick it away from her body. I'm gonna start at her head, flick. You can probably maybe see the clouds of dust that are coming up. It's winter here in North Texas. You can't tell because I'm in short sleeves, but that's kind of how it is in December in Texas. Still pretty warm. But Callie has her winter coat all grown out, so she has a lot of dust underneath that longer, thicker fur. A lot of people don't know that horses grow a winter coat, keeps them warm, and they do shed it in the spring. so we got that part all good. Looking good. I'm gonna get the other side now. I wanna show you guys something unique about horses. So whenever you're brushing, we know we brush with the same direction that the fur lies, like this, do this flicking motion. However, the fur is going this direction on her body, but whenever we get here, you can see her fur changes directions and it's actually laying this way. So it goes, it's kind of going this direction and then it changes to go this way. The reason being is because whenever it rains, the water will land on a horse's back, and this fur that's laying in a different direction is actually going to channel the water down their back to the underneath of their belly here, where you see it kind of comes together and it will drip down, but that keeps their belly dry whenever it rains. So kind of a cool thing about these horses. You may have also noticed I don't use this body brush to brush her face. The reason being is because their face is really sensitive and I want a softer face brush for her face. So I'm not gonna use this brush, I'm gonna switch. All right, now I'm going to brush her face. I don't do this every time, but I'll do this for the video. I only really do this whenever I feel like she needs it, but her face stays relatively clean. So you see, this is a different type of brush. This is a face brush or a soft brush. It's a little bit more flat, but you can tell the bristles are a lot softer. So I'm gonna use that. It actually has a strap for my hand to go under that, so I can kind of bend with her face, and it kind of has some flexibility to it. Okay. Now she has a halter on her face, so I'm gonna brush underneath this halter, try to get some of this mud off. Be careful not to brush into her eyes. Of course, paying attention to the way that her fur lies. I'm gonna get the other side. Okay, now her body's all brushed and clean of any debris. So the next step is using a hoof pick. You can tell it has a sharp point here, and then you have a brush here. I don't usually use the brush very often. Really, it doesn't do a whole lot. I use this pointy part more than anything. It's got a nice handle there. So I wanna show you kind of the trick to using the hoof pick. A lot of students want to do this, and I'm gonna use the back of my hand as an example, like it's the horse's hoof. A lot of people wanna scrape the top like this. That's not gonna do you much good. You wanna use this hoof pick as kind of a shovel. So you're going to dig down into the dirt, and then you're gonna rock back, because that's going to cause a point of leverage underneath that big chunk of mud or dirt in the horse's hooves, and it's going to lift it out. So think more about lifting or digging out the dirt rather than scraping it out. A lot of people call this a hoof scraper, and you don't want to think about it like you're scraping it. You want to think about you're digging. Okay, so let's get started. I'm going to come, and I'm at the horse's shoulder here, and I'm going to face her booty. Okay, I always want to face away from their head. Okay, and then what I'm going to do is I'm taking my left hand, the horse is on my left, starting at her shoulder, and I'm going to run my hand all the way down the back of her leg. And Cattie's pretty good about this. She knows I'm going in to lift her leg, so I'm going to use my right hand to grab this hoof, right at the ankle here. And that's where I'm going to hold my hand. As you see, my hand that's closest to her is the one that's holding her foot up. Now, if she tries to wiggle, I'm going to keep going with her, okay? I'm not going to put myself in a dangerous situation by doing this. In fact, I keep myself safer. I'm going to make sure I hold onto this hoof nice and strong. And if she moves or tries to take her foot back, I'm gonna lift her foot higher to her elbow right here. I don't know if you can see that or not, but that's her elbow. And then she can't yank it away from me. Because she needs to know that until I'm done picking these feet, she's gotta hold her foot up. And really, I'm doing most of the work. Now I'm gonna do that scooping or digging motion that I just showed. Okay, as you see, this is the hoof that I'm picking. And so I'm just digging out. I started at the back of the hoof here, and I'm just digging all that mud out. You can see her feet are really, really muddy. I'm just digging out. Remember, we're not scraping the top because that's not gonna be very efficient. We wanna dig down and rock that hoof pick out, kind of slinging that dirt out. And once you make a nice hole for yourself, a little bevel here, you can get your pick up underneath that, and look at that big chunk. Okay, I'm gonna go all the way around until I can see the bottom of the hoof. Now you can see this kind of whiter, almost fleshy tone. See, she kind of rocked back just a little bit. She's getting tired of me holding her foot up. That's okay, I stuck with her. So this fleshy tone that's her sole of her hoof. Whenever I see that, I don't want to keep digging because then I'm gonna dig into her foot and that's not gonna feel good. Now, you might be asking, when do I stop picking? When is it clean? It is clean when you can see that sole, and then you'll start to notice this V shape here in the hoof. That's called a frog. A little bit of a funny name, but that's what it's called. I'm gonna dig into that groove until it's very clear that there's a frog there. I wanna see that V shape. I'm digging down into her foot. Now, this doesn't hurt the horse. In fact, they really like it because it's getting their feet clean. And I'm just getting pretty clean here. Clean that center part out. I'm using the brush just a little bit, but you really don't have to. It doesn't do a whole lot. Okay, and that's how you know your horse's hoof is clean, when you can see that V really clearly, and you can see the sole all the way around, making sure there's no big rocks in there, because that's not gonna feel good for the horse. Okay, now that her front foot is clean, now I'm gonna go to her back foot. So I'm going to have my hand up on her just like this, following all the way to the back so she knows I'm here. That's the safest thing to do. Then I'm going to do just like what I did on the front foot, where I started up at the top of her shoulder and then went down the back of her leg. I'm going to do the same thing with the back foot here. All the way down, and Callie's a good girl, and then I'm going to have my inside hand, the hand that's closest to her, be the one on her ankle holding her foot up, okay? Now, horses can't really go forward very much, or back very much, so this is about as high as she's gonna be able to carry her hoof. But now I'm gonna proceed to picking just like I did with the first hoof. Okay, now Callie's hooves are all picked. This is about brushing her mane and tail. This is the tool that you're going to use. This is a mane and tail brush. It obviously has plenty of mane and tail hair in it. And then this is what's called Cowboy Magic. It's not real magic, unfortunately, but I think it's pretty cool. And it's detangler. So you get just a little bit of this. You're gonna get about a nickel size amount in the palm of your hand. You rub your hands together, and then you use kind of a combing or brushing motion with your hands to get that detangler through the mane and tail. You wanna pick out as many tangles as you can with your fingers. You wanna do as little as possible with your brush because you don't want to rip out her mane or tail. So I'm gonna start with that. Okay, so I'm gonna get my nickel-sized amount of Cowboy Magic, rub my hands together. You see it's kind of goopy. And then I'm going to just gently run my fingers through her mane. If I feel her mane catch like this, I'm just going to gently pull those tangled bits apart with my fingers. My goal is not to rip any of her mane out. Now you're always gonna get a little bit of shedding, just like our hair sheds, but you don't want big chunks. That's how we get Callie's mane so long and pretty. You see she's got these big mud chunks. I'm not gonna yank those out because it's gonna take her hair with it. In fact, I'm gonna have to soak these with a little bit of water to be able to get those out without damaging her mane. Horses cannot feel their mane, so you can pull and it doesn't bother them. They're not like us. They don't have nerve endings in their hair follicles on their mane like we do on our heads. Okay, now I'm gonna do the same thing with the Cowboy Magic, but on her tail. Now I'm gonna stand pretty close to her behind to do this with her tail, but remember, she knows I'm here, so she's not gonna kick me. So I'm just standing right here, and the closer the better. I'm just going to start by pulling each individual chunk of tail out. Being careful not to rip any of the hair out. As she moves, I'm just gonna follow her. I'm just gonna go with her. She just wants to be the star of the show. Okay, last step. So we're gonna brush through the mane and tail now that we've got our detangler in it. So the key to this is you wanna start at the bottom. Take a handful just like this and kind of start at the bottom, brushing gently. We don't want to rip anything. Then work our way up to the top. Be careful not to tear anything out. If you feel resistance against the brush, that does not mean pull harder. That means you need to get your fingers and pull apart a tangle. This hair takes a long time to grow back, so we want to make sure that we don't tear it out. Starting at the bottom again. really gently. All the way through her mane, and then I'll do her tail. Okay, now, as you see, there's no resistance to my brush. Her mane is nice and brushed out. Okay, I'm gonna move on to her tail. At the very tip of her tail here, brushing very gently until I don't feel any more tangles. I'm gonna move up. If I feel any resistance, like here, I don't wanna yank through, instead I'm gonna pause and pull it out with my fingers so that there's no breakage. I'll do that all the way up to the top of her tail or her tailbone. Okay, now as you see, no resistance to my brush. And her tail is detangled. Okay, so we have her all nice and groomed, and now we can saddle her. We can ride her. She's nice and clean. Not 100%, not perfect, but that's okay. I'm not trying to get perfection. Now, why do we groom horses? So there's two main reasons why we groom horses. One is to check and make sure they don't have any injuries on them. Like, I kind of noticed this little cut. Callie's actually had this for a little while, but I'm looking for things like that, little cuts and scrapes, so that you can put medicine on those or treat them as needed. You can find any ouchy spots on them, so it's really for the health of the horse. It also makes them feel good. The second reason is for safety, because if you're gonna ride this horse and they have a bunch of mud chunks or let's say a sticker on their back or under their belly where the cinch would go, then you put your saddle on, you didn't groom them good enough, that horse isn't going to be very happy and you could get severely injured. So that's another reason why we groom our horses. The third reason, which I said there was only two reasons, but I thought of a third, is bonding. It really gives you a good connection with your horse, and they really enjoy it. Callie really gets very relaxed whenever you groom her, and you just kind of feel a little better bond and you feel a little closer to your horse. So it's a great way to spend time together. Today, her and I are not riding, but typically we would after a groom, but today I just wanted to spend a little bit of extra time with her. So she loves it. Good girl, Callie.